for that very warm welcome. And I would like to thank Business World for creating this amazing opportunity and providing a platform to come here and share my experience with you, especially, a forum where such learned and experienced professionals from the same domain are sitting. I really don't know whether I can do justice to this topic. My experiences may or may not match yours, but I'm here to share some of my thoughts with you into a domain. We spoke a lot on private security, smart city security, and here is something I would like to tell from an end user perspective, the view on corporate security. How many people in this room are actually from a team which is managing the corporate security department in a company? Very few. Okay, no worries. So corporate security transformation is, in a nutshell, a new definition that it's a technologically advanced and financially informed practice. That is the new definition of corporate security. So the days of, just being, guarding assets and information, this is how I perceive the new definition of corporate security. And why I say so is because a lot is changing in terms of the attitude of business in transforming security function from a pure, cost center approach, where security was being seen as a function which was only consuming money and an essential, item of corporate that should be there. It's transforming to a business value hub, and CSOs and corporate security teams have a big role to play to see that this goes further and, it becomes a business function of value. So how we do it is that we deliver smart outcomes when we deliver services to our business units, to our employees, or if we are a client-facing business, then also to our clients. I come from the ITS sector, so our business is client-facing. I manage around 1,400 plus clients, top clients from the global order, and also, a large employee base. So in India alone, we have 200,000 employees operating across large campuses and another 50,000 outside India. So we deliver speed of response in terms of any security deliverables or projects that line up our way or any events that come up our way in terms of management of this operation of corporate security. We ensure that there is a better asset utilization, both in terms of people as well as in terms of assets that we deploy to manage security on the IoT side, the application side, databases, and deliver efficiency, or even outsource contracts for that matter. And finally, end up contributing to building corporate resilience to see that in time of difficulty, we are able to navigate the organization to success. So that's the first shift that is happening in corporate world. Why this is happening now, this slide explains that. Primarily, there are three triggers. One, any security incident has a very high speed of impact, especially if it's of global order or a regional order. We heard about geopolitics. I'll touch a little bit on that. But whatever we are seeing in the ecosystem in terms of how the security environment is changing, the speed of impact is very, very high. Second, of course, is the severity of consequences. We heard about airport security, how the consequences of an attack can really, reform the way security is managed in the country or, in such vital installations. So severity of consequences, both on the cyber side as well as on the physical side. So you see both, icon of the lock there, which represents the cyber, and a building, so it's quite a converged, consequence management. And last, of course, is the high time to recover. So the time to recovery when there is an incident of global order and which is ongoing and unresting, like the crisis in the Middle East and how we manage operation in that part of the world, the time to recover can be high in some cases. So these three triggers are guiding the total, transformation of the view on corporate security by managements and business leaders. Now, the risk landscape, as the corporate looks at it, is also transforming a lot. So first, of course, the threat itself is changing its nature. It's now more cyber-physical. So anything happening in the cyber world has a direct physical impact. We've seen many such cases. And, geopolitical shifts are also adding up to this. So whatever traction we have seen in terms of Europe or in Middle East or in other parts of the world, that is driving the adjustment to the risk landscape by corporate security function and also the enterprise risk management functions. Of course, there is a new element now of deep fake, and coupled with it is the artificial intelligence side. We heard Gary speak a little about artificial intelligence basics in terms of how this is shaping lives and impacting lives. But these two risks are new nuances. Corporate will be struggling initially because these are new age risks, how to deal with them. We are already seeing, examples of cases where deep fake videos, morphing voice and images of individual leading into financial losses. Earlier we had a CEO, scam, and now we have a CFO scam. So we just had an incident which was in the print media where $25 million was siphoned off in a meeting where the CEO's voice and image was morphed, and the deep fake technology using AI was used, and someone connected to a person to move the funds, and everybody in that meeting was a deep fake, except for the person who was transacting. So that is the nature of threat that is changing on the corporate side. And the finance departments are really, worried about such digital impersonation. So, but I am sure that the speakers in the next session on panel will touch upon this and, enlighten you more on this new age risks. Functional changes. So corporate has to, also adjust and adapt to the change that is taking place in the environment. It can't be very traditional hierarchical security functions the way it used to be. So what is changing effectively for corporate security is, number one, is the span of work for corporate security units. So the duty chart or the job description of a corporate security manager or a CSO or his team members is changing drastically. They are supposed to handle risks, response at a global scale, technology, whatever they are managing, cyber risk, physical risk. They must understand the language of a CISO, a general counsel, HR manager, business unit, and also the ERM, and should be able to converse in their language with them. So there is a lot of adaptation that the security leaders have to undergo to manage the corporate to success. And that is why the BCM involvement or the crisis management involvement or the technology management involvement is adding up to these roles in terms of physical security professionals. And the speed at which you will adapt, the better delivery you can give. So what is changing truly to make this change effective is that organizations are transforming their org structures from very hierarchical structures to very matrix structures. And I'll give you some example from my organization in terms of how we handle this, changes to the org structure. So we created 4 centers of excellence within the physical security unit. One deals with geopolitical security risk and analysis, and the command center operation and the geopolitical analysts and teams coming from international affairs background come and work in this stream. These are not mostly from military, but from the civil stream. Young people who have knowledge in this and who can do deep research and writings. Second, of course, is the physical security systems and operational technology. So we use a lot of applications because being an IT company or generally, the world is changing. So a lot of management of security duties is getting automated. A lot of applications are getting deployed. And that is how the command centers work. They integrate systems, physical access system with CCTV system, and in turn with intrusion systems and other systems as well. So we need experts to manage this and also recommend changes to the technology and upgrade system, because most of this system is an ecosystem of IoTs. For example, we manage around 20,000 IoTs. And we need to know whether the password changes to each IoT is taking to a disciplined order or there is a vulnerability. So there is a cyber element which will sit as a subset under this COE to see that the cyber defense on IoTs is also well addressed and taken care of. The next part is being a client-facing organization and regulated function, where a lot of even the private security legislation is talking of 9 labor legislations in the schedule Apart from that, when you operate the business at global level, the nature of regulations or ISO standards that we adopt or the customer demands on various contracts, whether it is contract compliance or a standard compliance or a legislation compliance, and of course it is added up with a audit, which can be an internal audit or an external audit or even a client-led audit. So you manage all of that at a very high scale. And that is why we created a center of excellence which looks at response to RFPs, management of the contracts in terms of how the customer has demanded security, and also, the standard that need to be followed for them. Last, of course, is the fourth center of excellence, which looks at the program governance. So the policy side, the procedure adjustment, there's a lot of dynamism in the environment, especially around data privacy, where the Indian legislation has also enacted the DPDP Act on similar lines as GDPR. So the legislative compliance requirements around program governance on personal data protection, again, is evolving, even in the Indian context. CCTV, of course, Captain Tyagi brought about that there is no legislation on the CCTV side in India. But I am saying even if there is no external legislation available from the government, we should have internal procedure and policy to regulate that. And that's where, the expertise of a program governance unit comes into picture to shape corporate policy, procedure, risk standard, and, take the program to success and also shape the KPI governance model in terms of what is that you're monitoring as a KPI for this function. And of course, two of the units are operative units, which you see in the blue and green. One is the physical security operations. This is basically the teams on ground, the foot on ground in the campus, security managers in campuses or facilities, and their connected teams. And last, of course, is the on-site services, because when you operate a very large business, enterprise security, you cannot have a very large team, manage that. It'll only eat up into structural costs. So a lot of services end up, getting outsourced to multiple providers, similar to guarding services. We have taken 3 big on-site services. So one is, of course, guarding services, where we use private security agencies to deliver guard services. Second is embedded resources. So this is a new concept. You cannot hold whole team on the payroll. So we go to risk consulting companies to embed resources to do essential shift duties or location security duties, control room operator duties, and likewise. And last, of course, is the maintenance cycle, because when we deploy large amount of IoT in campuses, which are of, large order of nearly taking around 20,000 employees on an average in a campus. So the IoT demand on us is very high. And consequently, the management of IoT to see that we deliver a very high uptime to our customers and make security efficient is also very high. So putting the on-site maintenance service under contracts is again a big item for us. So those are 3 services which are managed in parts by units and by operation teams jointly. Now, there are also operational changes that the corporate security team has to adjust to. First, if you're operating a global business and you're operating in multiple countries, you should have systems which are well integrated. You cannot have too much of fragmented system, because your management of that system will get very, very complex. And the interplay between various systems or your command center software will take a hit. So we should prefer that most physical security application and systems undergo a integration, and as far as possible, they remain connected with each other. Second, of course, is the predictive analysis and forecast. So when you run such large IoTs, the alarm quantum is also very, very high, because every door will generate alarm, every camera will also generate alarm, the fence, the intrusion system will also generate the alarm, and there could be many more subsystem alarms. So how do you keep pace with alarm management with a small team, keeping function lean, and at the same time intelligently managing all the alarms? And this is where the tech comes and plays a role in terms of how your capability has been developed to see how you can forecast the alarm, how you can analyze the alarm and make corrections. So if one door is giving, say, 1,000 alarms in a month, I think you need to address the door on priority. So this analytics actually help us get to that data and reduce the false alarm rate or, the alarms which are not, real. And also give us a prediction in terms of what to expect next month or what to expect over the next 6 months, by door, by device, by campus. So predictive analysis and forecasting is very, very important when we have to manage a function which is tech-oriented and, with the type of delivery that we have in mind. Of course, the third part is the cyber defense around IoTs. This is very, very important, and this is an item which has typically been neglected across companies and also by CSOs or, the IT companies which are managing, or even physical security professionals, ERM function, that this aspect somehow has remained very, very neglected in the industry. But the threat is changing, so it's triggering a cyber defense to be created. Segregation of networks between production networks and the security networks, putting firewall around the security network, carrying out vulnerability assessments on these systems, how you onboard a system, how do you do firmware upgrade, how do you do patch upgrade, and how do you do, password changes, and, the access control around access to these devices between various people that have access to these devices. So again, a big project in itself in terms of how we manage the cyber defense around connected devices, and I think this is an item which any security professional should look at very, very seriously. And last, of course, I touched a little bit on this, that security function is consuming a lot of data. There is a visitor system, there is an employee access system, there is a camera system, and there is biometrics, a lot of sensitive data coming from biometrics. So how do we regulate the complete protection around personal data, which is PII? How do we filter out PII, and how do we, manage still, which is essential PII? So control around that on encryption, how do we store, management of databases, what type of policies archive them, all of that stuff is part and parcel of the operational change that is driving, the changes in the way corporate security manage themselves. Now, we spoke about artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, again, is in its little infancy in terms of adoption in physical security domain. It may be there in bits and parts, but this is coming big time, and most organizations are focusing on, upgrading their capability, including us, to look at more and more AI being consumed by physical security domain. It starts with camera basics, where the AI can deliver a lot of, decisions. We've already deployed a couple of use cases in our company in terms of crowd detection, wrong direction movement of vehicles in a parking area, static stationary vehicle in the driveway, how you sense heat through camera in a server room. So many things, and how you deliver alerts and response when such alerts take place. So combination of AI, predictive analysis helps us with that. Behavior analytics, I think one speaker spoke about behavior analytics. This is again new thing. How do you do behavior profiling, and it ultimately adds up to prediction of what to expect by the employee behavior, and how the behavior will cause an alarm to get generated due to behavioral issues of individuals. Most of the time, apart from the carpentry issues or the device or the network issues, most alarms will get generated in large transaction sites primarily because of employee behavior or contractor behavior or visitor behavior. So I think it's very, very important to keep an eye on this, using tech to manage this aspect. Cybersecurity, I've already touched that. Of course, the impact is that you should use element of cybersecurity for cyber defense and management of cybersecurity issues. And AI, has both coins. One in the hands of good people can help you, respond better and address risk. And second, of course, in the hands of adversary, it can really cause havoc. So it sits on the dividing wall of both sides. But there is an element of cybersecurity which physical security professionals should be fully conversant and aware of. So cyber awareness of physical security professionals is very, very important, and I'll say it's unavoidable these days. Incident detection and response is another area for use cases on AI. Some examples I've already given, that when these incidents are there, how do we throw an alert into the mailbox, connect with other system, and make use of this information. AI models training. So training is another area where AI can be used to use simulated data and carry out training. I'll touch a little bit on slide further. And of course, reduction of false alarms, I've already covered this. And data privacy security, I already briefed on this one. But these all three use cases also find a lot of involvement of AI to eliminate and automate activities which you are doing manually. Benefits. Now, some of the benefits of all this change, one, of course, is improved efficiency. So security functions become much more efficient, both on cost and resources utilization. It becomes efficient technologically and also, in terms of execution. Advanced threat protection, so I've indicated how predictive analysis help with that. And this predictive analysis can be deployed in n number of areas, not only on how you predict alarms, but even if you are doing a geopolitical event monitoring and your command centers are equipped with that, you can apply advanced threat protection on trending on even geopolitics, that how an incident is taking place in a particular geography and what to expect. It'll take some time for machine to do deep learning and learn with a lot of data, and then, ultimately stand and deliver outcomes. Skill development, again, a very, very important element that because of this change, the complete skill ecospace of people in corporate security function, there is no choice but to upgrade and reskill or upskill them. So they are getting upgraded by virtue of change in the environment. Defining roles, so the roles are changing. As I said, I'll give you some definition of how the role of a corporate physical security members of the team are changing and what are the new roles that are getting created because of the technology change in the environment, the way we manage things. And of course, cost optimization. When you use higher grade technology, you have better capability to make decisions and reduce cost, as against a manual system where you are struggling with data and every time you have to do analysis, you will consume large number of man hours, which a computer can do at the click of a button. So very, very important to see that how we do an extraction of data analytics to do smart decisions and faster decisions. So this helps there in ultimately, delivering a cost optimization. Some opportunities before PSAs also, consulting organizations, new business in these areas because of the change, which I thought I should highlight here. One, of course, you can get into spaces like security monitoring services because every organization may not have capacity to have large teams and they can outsource this. Some organizations have created capability here, but how much of that has yielded success, I don't know. Maybe in some forum it will be good to understand what is the success rate of such facilities because there will be a resistance in co-sharing information and outsourcing that information. So how IT is able to support that, I really don't know. But it'll be good to hear somewhere on this item. Second, of course, is cybersecurity managed services. IT does it big way, but I think it's time that the threat coming on the IoT environment, companies which are into hard physical security domain look at this service as an additional layer in their business enterprise. Data services, we manage large databases. So how they can play a role in management of databases and the interplay of databases for various services. Because corporate will use the same database for multiple services. For example, access control data can be used for attendance services, right? In some cases, it can be used for food services, likewise. So how do you do management of data services? Cloud services, because most of the applications now going on cloud, whether it is the access control application, CCTV, of course, is a complex one on the cloud, especially if you have large amount of data being stored, easier and cheaper to store on-prem than in the cloud. But yes, people should get into this new opportunity of cloud services. It will be a business advantage for companies getting into this domain. Now coming on something called generative AI. This is the buzzword nowadays, that generative AI, right? How many people use ChatGPT, OpenAI platform? How many people know what is the full form of ChatGPT? Yeah? Sorry? General purpose technology. No. Generative pre-transformer trainer. Right? And chat, because it is playing with text, it generates text. And there will be soon image GPT and video GPT. And I think there is already pilot happening by OpenAI only for video GPT. So make sure that, how can you use generative AI in a physical security domain? There's a new thing, and if you can really fast forward think, and adopt this practice, you will be the leader in this. So here I touch three things in the virtual space. One is synthetic training data. Now, what is synthetic training data? Anybody from IT who has heard this word? Nobody? Okay. Synthetic training data is artificial data, which looks very similar to real, right? But is used to simulate things, and a scenario or a situation without making use of the real data. So you create data to train an application to generate a scenario, right? That scenario then is called simulation, right? How do you simulate a threat on the campus or on a device or in the command center or create a new geopolitical situation, even if it is non-existing, and train yourself, right? So that is simulation. And of course, all of this helps optimize your performance. So then it comes to system optimization. How do you optimize performance? And this can easily be connected in use cases to the physical security domain. It is not the baby of only IT domain that they generate a cyber attack on production systems. I mean, the exposure on physical security connected IoTs on cyber attacks is no different from business network. It is identical in nature. Impact may vary a little bit, but it is identical in nature in terms of protection and in terms of treatment and also in terms of response. So, but there will be use cases which you can make use of in this space. Next item is, of course, predictive modeling. So as I said, you can do a lot of prediction. So when you simulate scenarios, you can also predict using this technology and data that what to expect, how to deal with it. It can even do predictive response. So it all depends on how and to what limit you want to use this technology. Generative adversarial networks. How many people have heard of this GAN? Okay, can you say what is this GAN? Okay, so quite close, but it's very close to something like deep fake, I'll say, right? Because what it does, it will read a lot of images, like if in the family there are, 4 sons to a father, look very identical, and he has a 5th one, which also looks identical, but all of them are unique in terms of something or the other, right? So GAN can generate before delivery a 6th person's image, right? That how to play with images and generate something which is from an ecosystem of images. So one of those use cases. So it can have an impact directly on facial recognition technology used by physical security domain and that technology. It can also have an impact on biometrics that we use in this system. So it's very important to have knowledge about this and how this interplays with your applications and how you can actually use it in the physical security domain, especially system integrators and developers. We have any system integrators in the room from system integration companies? So I think if you do R&D effectively, this is a food for thought for you, that you should look at R&D into GAN capabilities, especially in the physical security domain. Anomaly detection is another one. So detecting false versus real. How do you detect anomaly? How do you match use cases and generate an output from using the AI capability, which is generative in nature? And last, of course, is the privacy protection, where you can use the generative capability to add to your protection layers so that segregate and manage this aspect as well. Risks. All of this tech is not free. It comes with risks. First, of course, is the cybersecurity issues with connected networks and data. And if you see the bottom below, there is a cost of doing it. It doesn't come for free. If you say, okay, I want to deploy a application to safeguard the network versus few guards to safeguard a campus, there'll be huge difference in the cost, right? So cyber things are very expensive. So if you have to do this, there'll be a higher cost of managing this risk, and that you should be prepared for. Privacy issues, I've touched that. Of course, if the data privacy in a corporate is not managed well and there are leakages, then it will lead to reputational risks on that corporation. So again, the two connected issues. Third, of course, while we talk AI, and AI, someone is developing AI and we are using AI. But someone must analyze how good or bad that AI is. Does it consume bad data or does it consume good data? And whether it will do accurate predictions or it will give you wrong decisions. So AI bias is another item when software developers write codes for AI. That data, what data is being trained on, is very, very important to see that the system does not have AI bias. You should have systems, otherwise you will have lot of false positives and less real data despite a AI thing coming in. So very, very important to analyze what type of data it is consuming and calling itself a AI-led application. Last, of course, the regulatory compliance, which, as I said, DPDP Act soon be implemented with rules getting notified. And of course, GDPR is already existing, and even in some other countries, privacy laws are existing. So the compliance standard to these type of laws, if there is a breach, the penal action is very, very severe. Like the Indian legislation I'll touch here, which is maybe of interest to you. The DPDP Act provides for 250 crore rupees of penalty on data breach. The GDPR provides for 4% of revenue as the penalty, or $20 million, whichever is higher, I guess that's the word. So make sure the data privacy aspects when you're consuming so much of private data is well addressed as part of corporate governance function. And last, of course, job displacement. So if you're using a lot of tech, then what happens is there's a lot of slackness in people. So we should safeguard against that, because men must still be effective and contribute and should not be fully slave to a application or a computer system. New roles, these are some of my innovation. I thought, food for thought, that a corporate physical security function will get into new roles, right? So yeah, this is the last slide. So like AI specialists, data analytics, and the list is here. Some companies have some roles embedded, and some must further evolve and bring these to order into their org structures. Then you will have a road which is well created for future. Otherwise, you will still be struggling for solution or depending on someone, and you will not get full bandwidth. You will only get small market share of other support functions time. So it's very, very important to build capability in your structures to address, because the scope of function, as I said, has changed a lot. With that, I think I come to the end of whatever I had to say and share. If there are any questions, I can take one or two and then end it. Okay, great. I think either I was super clear or thank you for that.